political commentator and columnist at the New York Post in Haworth, dealing with protesters at the campus of SUNY Albany. He joins us today to talk about what happened. Also joined by a content creator at Kindle in Kentucky, Kendall Bailey, and Tom and John here also. Ian, tell us what happened.
Yeah, so I showed up on SUNY Albany's campus, ready to give a speech, ironically on free speech. And the speech never was able to start in the venue that we had booked because I think 50 to 75 students loosely affiliated with the Democratic Socialist group marched into the hall and basically used the heckler's veto to shut down the speech. They were screaming at the TPUSA organizers. They were spitting in people's faces. One of the TPUSA members brought a Bible, and that was torn to pieces. The only thing they destroyed more was the free pizza the TPUSA was hanging out. So apparently we're a bunch of fascist Nazis who are transphobes, but they can't turn down our free pizza.
What are they so threatened by?
I mean, it's quite obvious. It's really any idea that doesn't align with theirs. This is just a bully tactic used to force ideas that threaten theirs off campus. And the problem is isn't an isolated incident. We're seeing this every week, campuses across the country.
That's right. Okay. Kendall, I love when you do a lot of your social media. In case you missed it, so I wanted to get in case you missed it, a California mom is slamming an elementary school for transitioning her daughter behind her back. Chico Unified School District has voted to keep its parental secrecy policy in place, though. What do you think of that, Kendall? My wife's a teacher, and sometimes she's told not to tell parents about certain kids what they're going through.
So what I tell my children is any adult that tells you to keep a secret is not a safe adult. Also, my red flag here was this child was in counseling because her mother was suffering with breast cancer. Instead of and then told the counselor, I think I might be a boy. And the counselor ran with that instead of thinking maybe she doesn't want to be a girl because girls have breasts and breasts can get breast cancer. Therefore, I want to be a boy.
Yeah, not thinking it through.
Exactly.
Yeah. Ian, where does this go? When does free speech come back where people are not offended so much by these words?
I think it goes when we understand that there is a difference between speech and violence. Because if you notice, this all started quite a few years ago with the chant that speech is violence. The moment you believe that speech and violence are the same thing, you can try and justify to yourself the use of physical force, as we saw in SFSU with Riley Gaines, to prevent that speech.
Yeah,
I think we need to return to a point where even if it's speech that you abhor and you think is awful, you need to allow that to happen because it's not physically harming you.
Yeah, it all comes down to common sense in so many cases, Kendall, it seems. Like the Riley Gaines, why men should be able to swim against her is still crazy to me.
It's wild. And in case you missed it, as women, we have lost all of our rights. And I think this is a critical time that parents need to be so involved in their children's lives. I think we have some really great educators out there, but unfortunately, there's some really dangerous people who are coming for our children, who are grooming our children, and it's disgusting.
Yeah, it is. Ian, thank you so much for sharing your story.